I parked my 2008 Honda CR-V outside their house at 4:15 p.m. Sunday. The cake box sat on the passenger seat, still warm. I'd paid $42 for it. Carrot cake, no nuts, her favorite. I smoothed the foil, adjusted the candles, and rang the bell. Her mother opened first. Didn't say hi, just called back into the house, it's her. My son came out, didn't look me in the eye. She followed right behind, hair curled, dress new. Then she said it loud, like a punch to the gut. This isn't a charity. We're done investing in losses. Her dad chuckled. Rotten investment, he muttered. I stood there with the cake in both hands. My son didn't say a word. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. But something in my neck tensed up. The door clicked shut. I was still on the porch when the porch light turned off. Back in the car, the candles had wilted sideways. I couldn't even drive yet. I just sat there, hand on the wheel, pretending I was checking something, anything. My phone buzzed. My friend Claire had texted an hour earlier. Still going to their place today. Don't let them steamroll you again. I stared at that message like it came from a different planet. I should have seen it coming. The way she'd talk over me when guests were around. The way he stopped replying to my texts after they moved in. And I just kept excusing it. They're young. They're stressed. Don't make waves. But let me ask you this. If I'm such a burden, why use my down payment to get that house in the first place? Why register it under my credit? When Claire called me later and I told her what happened, she paused for a second, then said, flat out, throw that whole cake in the lake, then go get your name back. But I didn't throw it away. I brought it home. Sat on the floor and ate the first slice with a spoon straight from the tray. I felt pathetic. I hated myself for still hoping they'd call. They didn't. I didn't go back, not for 3 years. But the paperwork that stayed with me. It was July 18th, 9:40 a.m. I had the key to Unit 142, back corner of Lakeside Storage. I'd been paying $87 a month for 3 years, even after they kicked me out. I thought at the very least my things were still there. My son had texted, "You left them. We've handled it." But no one had asked me for permission. I parked, entered the code, and walked to the unit. The metal door groaned as I pulled it open. Empty. Clean. Like I'd never existed. No photo albums. No kitchenware. Not even the quilt his grandmother made. I ran my fingers across the back shelf. Cold. Dustless. Like someone had wiped me out on purpose. I called him. He picked up after the second ring, sounded irritated, like I was interrupting something important. "We donated it. You said we could." "No," I said. "I asked for time. I said I'd come back." "Well, too late now." He hung up. Just like that. Later that day, I asked a friend, James, a retired notary who used to live next door, to stop by and look over some paperwork I found buried in my inbox. I forwarded him a 2019 email with the house deed attachment where I was listed as the initial buyer. He skimmed it, nodded slowly, and said, "They used your name to get the loan. Your score was the leverage." That hit hard. If I was so rotten, why build their life on my record? And here's the part that still stings. I hadn't even told them I wanted the whole unit. Just one photo album, the one from 1996. My son's 4th birthday. The blue cake with plastic trucks on top. I would have picked it up in 5 minutes if they had just asked. But maybe I missed the signs. The times she changed the subject when I talked about old things. The way he never offered to help when I moved out. I wanted to believe they were just overwhelmed. Now I know they were clearing space for themselves. I opened that old email again, and this time I really read it. It was August 2nd, 7:26 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table in my 1-bedroom rental bowl of instant noodles going cold. I opened my old Gmail-typed deed in the search bar and hit enter. One result popped up: subject line, closing docs, chart Lake House. Scan copy, July 2003. I clicked it. PDF, 5 pages. Page 3, my name. Sole ownership, no cosigner, no second party, just me. I stared at the screen like it might disappear. My chest tightened, then something uncoiled. Not joy, not yet, but something closer to breath. They'd built their narrative like I was some charity case crashing their lifestyle. But if I was never on the deed, how did this file exist? I sent it to myself again, twice. Printed 3 copies, 1 for me, 1 for the lawyer, 1 in case they lost things like they lost my storage unit. When I told James, he just blinked and said, "Well, damn, Sarah, that's the play." That line stuck with me. Not good job, not finally, just that's the play. Because here's the thing, when my son said, "We signed everything. It's ours now," I believed him. That's the part I'm still embarrassed about. I never asked to see the updated title. I just assumed. Because they said family. Because I didn't want to rock the boat. But if it's all truly theirs, why keep using my credit card for the HOA fees? Why not refinance out of my name? I'm tired of being the safety net they cut holes in. The next morning, I drove the file to the courthouse in a manila folder. I wore the same blue zip-up I always wore to doctor's appointments. It smelled like coffee and fear. I kept my hand on that folder the entire drive. Not for protection, for proof. Because now it wasn't just about what they took, it was about what I still held. August 3rd, 10:12 a.m. County Recorder's Office, 2nd floor. Fluorescent lights, dusty air. I stepped up to the counter, handed over the 2003 deed, creased but clear. The clerk, a woman maybe in her late 40s with chipped maroon nails, adjusted her glasses and leaned in. "Ma'am," she said, scrolling her screen, "this house is still legally in your name. No transfer ever processed, not one." I didn't say anything right away, just nodded. She offered to print the latest record for $6. I paid in cash, exact change. Across the street was a bakery cafe I hadn't been to in years. Clover and Finch. I ordered a small black coffee, $3.25, sat by the window with the county papers in my lap. My hand trembled a little, lifting the cup. Not fear, not nerves, just fury. Held too long, starting to rise. That's when you realize it's not the betrayal that shocks you. It's how long you let it sit without checking. If it was really their house, like they said, why hadn't they filed anything? Why were bills still coming to my old name? Why were taxes paid late using my backup account? Because family, they'd say. Because trust. But what kind of family keeps you out of your own house and still uses your credit to hold the roof up? I texted my old coworker, Gwen, used to do real estate before she retired. I just wrote, "They never filed the title transfer." She called me immediately. "Sarah, I'm gonna say this once, sit on it. Don't storm in. Wait. Let them keep thinking it's theirs." That's when I felt it, that ugly mix of vindication and shame. I should have checked this years ago. I was so scared of losing connection to my son, I let them pile lie over lie. And for what? A few Sunday lunches, birthday texts from a daughter-in-law who couldn't look me in the eye. I folded the paper, tucked it back in my purse, and stared out the window. Let them redecorate all they want. I wasn't done watching. October 10th, 9:03 a.m. The auction notice came by mail folded, once addressed to me because the title was still under my name. That's how I knew they hadn't even bothered to update the address. The tax default was printed right there in black and white, 3 years unpaid. I circled the auction date in red, November 14th. I didn't smile. I just stared at the page. They told everyone they'd bought me out. Even remodeled the kitchen. White quartz, stainless steel, everything. She bragged on Instagram. Our lake house makeover I watched, quietly. The bills kept piling, and I knew they couldn't keep up. Not when my son's credit was tied up in car leases, and her taste leaned toward $9,000 couches. Gwen and I sat at her kitchen table later that day, drinking lukewarm coffee out of chipped mugs. "They're not gonna see it coming," she said. "You bidding on your own house, I mean. That's one way to show up." I didn't laugh. I just folded the form back into my purse. If they could really afford it, I said, why'd they let it slip into foreclosure? And if we were really family, why didn't they ask why shut the door and pretend I was dead until the tax bill came due? Truth is, I'd helped them more than I should have. Used my name for the original property line correction. Paid for the fence work when the contractor needed cash up front. I thought keeping the peace meant keeping the family. Turns out it just kept the damage quiet. I'll admit this, when I saw the foreclosure notice, part of me felt ashamed. Like I'd let it get this far. Like I'd failed to protect my son from himself. From her, maybe from the pressure of trying to impress everyone. But shame doesn't pay taxes. And silence doesn't fix deeds. So I called the auction office, asked one question: cash only or cashier's check. Then I started gathering what I needed. November 14th, 10:17 a.m. The county building smelled like old carpet and stale printer ink. I sat 2 rows back from the front, wearing the same navy windbreaker I wore to my doctor's appointments. Nothing flashy, just quiet. They called parcel 18B, the lake house. The bidding started at $164,000. 2 other bidders went back and forth. One dropped out. The other hesitated at $194,000. I raised my paddle once. Final bid, $198,000. The auctioneer pointed. Highest bidder. I didn't cheer. I didn't even smile. Just walked to the desk and signed. Cashier's check already in hand. I folded the receipt into my jacket pocket like it was a grocery list. I don't know what they expected: fireworks. Screaming revenge post on Facebook. Some things are too old for that. Later that day, I called Gwen from the Walgreens parking lot. She picked up on the first ring. "You got it," she asked. "They'll know soon enough," I said. She exhaled. "I swear you're colder than my freezer." But the truth, I wasn't cold. I was tired. Tired of pretending I didn't see what was coming. Tired of telling myself maybe they'll come around. If you really care about someone, do you toss their wedding album without asking? Do you call your own mother a rotten investment because she didn't bring wine to the barbecue? And if they were so financially stable, why'd they miss tax payments? Why borrow my name for the mortgage? Why use my retirement check for the down payment and pretend they built that life alone? There was one moment in the bathroom stall after signing that hit me hard. I looked down at the receipt in my lap and thought, how did I get here? I raised that boy. I rocked him to sleep in the room he just lost. And part of me wanted to rip the whole thing up just to see his face again without the bitterness. But instead, I flushed, fixed my jacket, walked out. The next bill was due in 2 weeks. I didn't send a reminder. January 3rd, 42 p.m. I was microwaving soup when my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. "Ma'am, this is Lakeside Ridge Security. The occupants of 18B are refusing to vacate. Said the house is theirs." I turned off the microwave. Let the soup sit. My coat was already by the door. I didn't rush. I called Marta. She used to work in property law. We met in front of the house, her Honda still running. She handed me a folder. "Keep it short. You've got every paper." We walked up the stone steps. I hadn't seen that porch in 3 years. Same blue pot I left behind. Now filled with fake tulips, my daughter-in-law opened the door, arms crossed. "What are you doing here?" I said nothing, just handed her the court-stamped documents. She glanced, then tossed them onto the entry table. "This is our house." You walked away. Marta stepped in. Calm, firm. "No, ma'am. You were in default. You're trespassing." My son came into view standing behind her. No hello, no shame. "Seriously, Mom," he said. "After everything we did for you," I looked him dead on. "If you paid for it, why'd you need my name on the mortgage?" He didn't answer. And if we're being honest, my knees were shaking. I felt my breath catch, walking up those stairs. Not from fear, from grief. I remembered setting up a crib in that guest room, watching my grandson take his first steps down that hallway. I thought maybe I'd hear laughter again. Maybe I'd get to sit on that porch one more time just to feel like I mattered. Instead, I looked at Marta, nodded once. She turned to security and said, "Remove them." They started to object loud and fast, but I'd heard it all before. I walked back down without turning around. The next chapter began in a lawyer's office. January 10th, 9:06 a.m. I arrived in Marta's car, a silver Toyota Camry with a cracked dashboard. Their black Escalade was already there, parked half on the lawn like it owned the dirt, too. I saw the boxes first. Sloppy, rushed, a lamp sticking out. Someone's sneaker. My grandson's old puzzle set still half wrapped in tinsel from Christmas 2 years ago. Security stood to the side. Marta was calm but clear. No physical resistance. Verbal doesn't matter. We document everything. She had her phone out. Not filming, just recording audio. Just in case, she said. My daughter-in-law was already screaming before I reached the steps. "You heartless old woman. You're kicking out your own family." I didn't say anything. My jaw clenched. Not because I was angry, but because my tongue kept trying to explain itself and I wouldn't let it. My son ran up behind her. "Mom, please. Let's talk. We've got nowhere to go today." I turned, and when I had nowhere to go, "Where were you?" He looked down, didn't answer. "And remind me," I added, "who stopped paying the taxes?" She shot back. "We were doing our best." I asked if your best was enough. Why did the house hit foreclosure in the first place? That shut them up. The worst part, I saw my grandson peek through the SUV window, confused, crying. Still in pajamas. I wanted to grab him, hold him, say none of this was his fault. But I wasn't sure he'd even recognize me now. Marta's voice broke the silence. "They'll need to remove the rest by noon. Anything left becomes property of the owner." He opened his mouth again. I turned away. I walked inside. The air smelled like vanilla candles and old food. I sat down on the same couch where they once called me a rotten investment. There was one drawer I checked first. It was January 12th, 4:42 a.m., cold but not sharp. The kind of cold that just makes you feel awake. I wrapped myself in the old beige sweater I hadn't worn since the move and carried my mug, the one they used to call cheap-looking, to the deck. The lake was still. Not a boat, not a duck, just silence. The chair creaked as I lowered myself into it. The same chair she once mocked for ruining the aesthetic. Funny how quiet it got once there was no one left to insult the furniture. I didn't cry. I just sat. Breathed deep. No alarms. No locked doors. No whispered jokes outside my room. I could finally think. No one asking where the charger was. No one asking what I'd cooked. No one asking for my debit card. Marta called at 7:05. All keys returned. Movers came back for the last box. "You good?" I said. "I'm sitting in the ugly chair." She laughed. Then, "Yeah. You're good. I should have seen it sooner." The slow phase out. The accidental missed calls. The family group chat I got removed from. I kept giving them space, thinking it would earn me respect. Turns out they were just using the distance to rewrite the story. When did I become the outsider in my own home? My son once told me, "It's not about ownership, Mom. It's about family." But if it wasn't about ownership, why'd you fight so hard to keep what was never yours? And if it's really about family, why was I sleeping in a one-bedroom rental while you were throwing barbecues on my lawn? I took another sip of coffee. Hazelnut creamer, the cheap one. The way I like it. The final call I made wasn't loud, but it would change everything. It was February 2nd, 10:15 a.m. when I walked into Fisher & Low Law folder in hand. Not the leather one they gifted me years ago for Mother's Day, the one they forgot about right after. Just a red plastic one from Staples. Inside, my will rewritten. "Ma'am," the paralegal asked, clicking her pen. Who will inherit this property? I didn't hesitate. Erin, my niece. She's 27, teaches 4th grade, and once drove 4 hours just to fix my printer. My son hadn't called in 7 months, not even after the removal. My daughter-in-law posted vague quotes online. Nothing direct, just the usual. Some people don't appreciate what they have. But I remembered Erin showing up with a lasagna and saying, "I heard what happened. I'm not asking questions, I'm just here." That was enough. I signed. The pen scratched more than I expected. My hand trembled, not from doubt, just from knowing this time it was final. I slid the signed documents into the red folder. My thumb pressed down a little harder than needed. Then I exhaled like I'd been holding something heavy behind my teeth for years. If family is about love, why does it come with terms and conditions? And if I was such a burden, why do they keep circling back when they need things? Mr. Randall, the lawyer, raised an eyebrow and said, "You sure about excluding both your son and daughter-in-law?" "Dead sure," I said. Then after a second quieter, "I let them take the house once. I won't let them take what comes after." Truth is, I still think about my grandson. I still have his first crayon drawing folded in my wallet. Part of me fears he'll grow up thinking I abandoned him, that I left without saying goodbye. But I didn't leave. I was erased. There's a difference. I left the lake house for the weekend. Erin's birthday. Key on the table. Door locked behind me.